Hi guys, I'm Woodcraft Hamster and I thought I'd do a quick video today about bushcraft knives. Now I've done a few of these before, nothing anyone hasn't seen before, but the question I wanted to ask was, can you ever have too many bushcraft knives? Now most bushcrafters will know knives are a very personal thing, and they also tend to accumulate quite quickly. For some unknown reason, people tend to gravitate towards them for bushcraft. They're a very useful tool, but I certainly am one of those people that ends up with quite a lot more than I ever intended to. Now I've got a selection of them here, and what I thought I'd do is I'd bring the camera a little bit closer in and we would take a look at exactly what it is I've got, what I use them for. Right, so here is a selection of my bushcraft knives. It's certainly not by any means all of them, but they give a fairly good representation of the different types and style of knives that I use. So first things first, in order to answer my own question, I don't think you can own too many bushcraft knives. And the reason I say that is, out of this selection here, I use all of these for different things. They all have a different purpose, and depending on what I'm doing will depend on which knife I take out. Now that's not to say that you can't practice bushcraft with just one knife. It's perfectly doable, and there's nothing whatsoever wrong with that. I just happen to like different types of tools, and seeing as I have the opportunity, I have a number of them. So to start off with one at random, let's take the Mora. Now this is a classic bushcraft knife. I think most people will be familiar with this. This is the Mora Clipper, and this is sort of pretty much the epitome of a bushcraft knife. It's got a Scandinavian grind, which a lot of people in bushcraft favour, and that's to say that the edge here has got quite a wide bevel. It's very, very easy to maintain either at home or in the field, and it's an extremely sharp knife. If I just reach down here, just find a little off-cut of wood. Now the blade on this is very, very sharp, and as you can see, I'm putting hardly any pressure on this, and it's just rolling straight through this piece of wood. The benefit of that is it allows you to do a lot of fine detail tasks. You can make things like feather sticks, you can carve with it, and it's very, very good all-round bushcraft knife. Now you can pick these up for, give or take, 10 or 15 pounds, and they are extremely good value for money. Most starters or people that are new to bushcraft will generally use one of these, and if you go on to something like a bushcraft course, this is generally what you will be given. And they are absolutely superb as both a starter knife and as somebody who has been into bushcraft for a number of years. You could use this knife exclusively for your entire bushcraft career, and you wouldn't go wrong with it. And I use this as a general purpose bushcraft knife, and it's never ever let me down. Moving on from there, you have something like this. Now this knife in particular is a Mears bushcraft knife. It's made by a maker named Stephen Wade Cox. I've done a couple of videos about this before. Now this is a very expensive knife in comparison to the Mora, but as you can see, they're very, very similar. This one has what I would consider to be a better build quality. It's a heavier knife. It's got a much thicker blade. And it's just generally a better made, better quality knife. There are a lot of arguments for people saying, is it worth the money in comparison to this? And you can get variations of this from different makers, that very, very similar design, for varying degrees of cost. So you could pick this up for £10. This cost approximately £400 when I bought it. There are other knives of this type and style by other makers. You can get them anywhere between sort of £100 plus. And again, same scenario. This cuts really, really nicely, really, really well through this kind of wood. You can do everything that the Mora can do, and it's just a really, really nice little knife. So again, two very similar knives, big difference in price, but they do very, very similar jobs, and I use them both for the same kind of thing. And then something like this, which is a Mora carving knife, which again has got the Scandinavian grind. It's a very, very sharp knife. It does a lot of fine detail tasks. It won't allow you to do as many tasks as the Mora and the Mears, solely because of the size of this blade. But again, you can use this. I use it predominantly for carving, which is what it's designed for. You can still make things like feather sticks with this, but for other sort of slightly heavier tasks, not so good. But this is a really, really nice knife if you're doing a bit of detail carving, you're finishing off a spoon or something like that. So that's the sort of the very particular bushcraft knives. This one here is my TBS Boar. It's a folding lock knife, and again, it's a lovely knife, and it has got a really sharp blade on there. It's Scandinavian grind again, and as you can maybe able to tell, I do favour a Scandinavian grind, but you know, the only problem with this knife, if you can call it a problem, is it's a locking blade, which means that the structural weakness is here in the lock. So you can't use this for the really heavy tasks. You can't use it for battening. That's a whole separate discussion. I know some people are dead against it. Others like myself don't mind it. But again, for everything other than really heavy kind of tasks, this is a really good knife. And if you want something that will fold up and you can literally just slip it into a pocket, carry it around with you, it's a really good bushcraft knife. And there are variations of this, different makers and brands and things that make something very similar, but a very good knife. So that's the bushcraft type knives, if you like, or the specific bushcraft knives. They've been designed and made for bushcraft. Now, out of the 4 that are left, these 2, and I'll show you this one first. This is a buck. Do you know, I can't even remember what the name of this knife is. I think it's not a Phantom. No, I'll have to pop something up on the screen to show you what it's called. But this is a buck. It is again a folding lock knife. It has a secondary bevel. It doesn't have a Scandinavian grind. It's still a relatively sharp knife. As you can see, it's not cutting as well. I could do with dropping this blade a little bit, to be honest, but it's still certainly sharp enough for making feather sticks, that kind of thing. And also this one, this is a fairly new acquisition to me. This is the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. Again, very sharp knife, certainly sharper than the buck. And again, I could happily make feather sticks all day with this. I can use this, as I will most of these, for things like food preparation as well. But these particular 2 knives are what I class as utility knives. So it's the sort of thing that I can pop in my pocket. I can use it for most things. They're not ideal for carving by any means, but they will do at a pinch. All of these knives have got a nice sharp 90-degree spine on them, so I can strike a fire steel with them, which is something I always look for in a bushcraft knife. But again, as something to keep in your pocket if you're not planning on going out doing any kind of particular bushcraft activities. These are brilliant for just everyday things. I mean, I keep one of these in my pocket when I'm at home. I use them for opening packets and boxes. You know, I can use them for carving if I want to, and sort of everything in between. But again, because they're locking, you know, I wouldn't take it out specifically if I were going on a bushcraft trip. Now finally, and I'm sorry about all the planes going overhead, guys, it seems to be a bit of a busy day for planes here. I've got these 2. Now they're both made by the same manufacturer. You may have seen them in my other videos. This is the SE4, which is a lovely little knife. I've done a few modifications to it, as you can see, and the SE6, which is basically its big brother. Now these are more what I would term as survival knives. Now they can be used for bushcraft. You know, you can cut with them nicely, you know, as long as you get a good edge on it. You know, again, going back to the feather stick analogy, I can make feather sticks with this absolutely no problem whatsoever. Now this knife in particular, and this one, are very good for battening, by which I mean you'll put it on top of a piece of wood, you'll hit it with another stick, and you can chop down. Let me grab this here. So basically what you'll do, if you want to process some firewood while you're out in the field, that is exactly what you can do with it. Now that's just a very small demonstration, a very small example, but obviously, you know, with these 2 knives you could use much larger pieces of wood. And again, the SE6, you know, I can get some really fine shavings off of this, as you can see. So again, you can do feather sticks, you can prepare food with this, and again, if I just line this up, you can also quite happily batten with it as well. So again, so these are the bushcraft knives that I tend to use. These are the ones that tend to come out in the field with me. I do have others, but they have over the years sort of taken a bit of a back seat. But again, I don't feel this is too many, because I have a number of different knives that have a number of different uses. I quite like to be able to go out and, you know, decide, right, which knife should I take with me today? Maybe I'll take this one because I haven't used it for a little while and I can you know, put it through a few paces. Maybe I want to do some battening. Something like this would be ideal if I was going for an overnight trip or longer, and I didn't want to take with an axe or something like that with me. This will take the place of an axe for most of the stuff I want to do unless I'm carving, as will this one at a pinch. If I don't want a particularly big fire, you know, I can certainly use this as well. If I want to do any sort of carving and things like that, then I'll use some of the others as well. Right then guys, well that was just my thoughts on bushcraft knives. I genuinely don't think you can have too many. You can certainly get away with using just one without any problems at all. You don't need to have more than one. If you're like me and you like to have a little bit of choice and you can, you know, decide what is it I'm going to use today, what do I want to do. You know, if you are in the market for buying yourself a new bushcraft knife, especially if it's your first one, just have a think about what you want it for, what you're going to be doing, what's its primary use. As I say, you know, if you are new into it, the Mora, I mean, you genuinely can't go wrong with a Mora knife. They are very, very good value for money, and they will allow you to do everything that maybe one of the more expensive bespoke ones will do. And again, they will allow you to do most of the things all the other ones do. If it is going to be your first one, I would probably recommend avoiding folding knives for the time being, just because they are a little bit sort of weak in some areas. And you know, you maybe won't be able to do everything with one of those. But I hope it was useful, guys. Comments and questions in the box below. Happy to discuss the pros and cons of any of these. Anybody's interested, hit like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I hope you'll all join me next time. Thanks, guys.